President Trump moments ago issuing a presidential proclamation to honor the 90th anniversary of the Social Security Act. The administration celebrating some much needed improvements to the program, but it still faces a very uncertain future as funding for it slowly dries up. Frank Bisignano is the Social Security Administration Commissioner, and he joins us now after running out from the Oval Office. Frank, good to be with you today. Thanks for taking the time. I know it's been a busy afternoon. So here's what the president said about Social Security earlier today. He said, quote, "To this day, Social Security is rooted in a simple promise. Those who gave their careers to building our nation will always have the support, stability, and relief they deserve. Thanks to my administration's efforts, Social Security now stands stronger and more resilient than ever before." However, insolvency is still predicted to happen in 2034. That's a brick wall that we're rushing at 100 miles an hour. What do you do to push it back?
I think, first of all, you have to think about the foundation, and what we've been doing is working on the foundation. Second of all, we've always talked about Social Security as 72 million beneficiaries. We're talking about 300 million active, more than 300 million active Social Security numbers. And so the ability to serve that whole base was really job one. Job two, to digitize the business, and we have a bold goal to have 200 million digital users. While doing that, we've been working on fraud, waste, and abuse. Earlier today, I talked about $8 billion of changes we've made. These inputs have not gone into insolvency formula yet, and the amount that we're still going to work on is still not even uncovered. It was an organization that had a 1% error rate. I've often said we need to move that 5 digits to the right. That may not solve the whole problem, but up till now, we've never accounted for a well-run organization. It's not the expenses of the organization, it's the expenses of the trust fund. So I'm optimistic that each year we'll chip away at it. At some point in time, the trust fund trustees, which I'm one of them, along with, Congress, will see what's needed. But I think it's premature because we're doing so much to fix the operations of the organization.
Yeah. Commissioner, good to have you on the program today. I just want to give everybody at home a snapshot of the Social Security benefits and just how much money we're talking about here. And I want everybody to take a look at the big number, the total monthly benefits, $130 billion, sir. That's a ton of money that I can't wrap my mind around. This has been such a political hot potato, waiting for an administration to address, how to prevent Social Security from going broke. No one wants to cut the benefits, but Republicans also don't want to raise taxes. So what ideas are you bringing to the table to try to address this, get ahead of it before it could go broke?
Well, as I said before, first of all, I like us to think about, that 130 that we looked at goes to 72 million Americans, but there's 300 million Americans that we actually serve with the Social Security number. And having the pure accuracy of that, if you think about the cost of the inaccuracies of a 1% error rate on that, that's very, very large. So I think the first thing, and this is my 100th day in the job, you heard the stats from the president on what we've done in terms of servicing, getting the systems up 100% of the time. We had a website down 29% of the time. If those things don't work right, that's not causing out payments to work right. So the next job is payment accuracy. And as we whittle away at that, we'll come back with ideas and thoughts on how to make this a better performer and ultimately protect and preserve it for the next 90 years.
There are a lot of things that people have talked about is raising the age of eligibility. People are working well past their 65th birthday now. Why not push that back to 68, maybe even 70? And then a favorite topic of progressive Democrats is lift the cap on income in terms of contributions. Here's what Bernie Sanders said about that.
We have got to expand Social Security and extend its solvency. And the way to do that clearly, and I know Social Security Works has been talking about this for years, is to lift the cap on taxable income so that the wealthiest Americans start paying their fair share of taxes. Right now, as we all know, a billionaire pays the same amount into the Social Security Trust Fund as somebody makes $176,000 a year.
Some analyses suggest, Mr. Bisignano, that simply lifting the income cap could extend the solvency of Social Security out to 2066. But nobody wants to raise taxes, at least not on the Republican
I'd
side.
say in that same interview, the good senator talked about us having half the staffing that we have. You know, so there were a lot of things at that interview that I would throw out because the inaccuracies, field offices closing, we haven't closed one field office. We're going to serve the American public where they should be served. There's been a drumbeat of inaccuracies consistently while we're performing better than any other agency. And if you had a business, I took a company, First Data, it was 10x levered with $24.5 billion of debt and losing money, and we ultimately turned it into a great company. It started by fixing the operations. Nobody wants to talk about that, but that's where all the money goes through. So I'm going to come back to my platform. It's have a vision for a digital first agency, have 200 million digital users by the end of next year, have it run as a great payment company, which would be 5 digits to the right of 1%. And then we'll actually know what the nut might be.
Okay. Well, we look forward to seeing what you'll do with this agency in the next 3 years and maybe keep it going for the next 9 decades. We'll see. And happy first 100 days to you, sir.
Yeah, because
It
some of
will
us
happen.
I was
It
going to
will
say,
happen.
some of us are closer to using Social Security than others.
I think a good thing
Some are more worried than others.
A good thing to think about is Social Security is the largest input in America to the financial planning for retirement. Yes, for the vulnerable. Yes, we keep people out of poverty. But every financial planner has the input of Social Security. It's the largest input to America's retirement.
All right.
You are right.
Then there's the
Commissioner.
idea of a lockbox. Remember that one? Mr. Bisignano, thanks so much for joining us. Appreciate it.
Commissioner, good to see you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.